name's Kate Fry. I teach ESL at the Chinatown campus of City College of San Francisco. We're here today to protest Chancellor Rocha. He has canceled classes. He has been destroying our college. He's doing the same thing to our college that he did at a previous college. And so we're here to stand up and make a new plan. We need to save our college.
And the professors here are boycotting this meeting. Is that a vote of no confidence?
In action, maybe it is. I think it's time for that.
You think he should go?
Absolutely. There we go. Read that.
And what's behind, what do you think he's doing? I mean, what is behind these attacks? Who is he representing?
It's a really good question. He certainly is not representing the students or the faculty or this school. He's in it for himself. He's an outsider. He's making a lot of money. If they want to know how to run the college, they should talk to the faculty and the students, but they're blatantly disregarding both of those groups.
And what do you think about his letter to the mayor and the Board of Supervisors saying that this is part of the structured downsizing and there was no need for funds to prevent the cutback?
I think it just shows the lies that he's been spreading. He's told everyone that he cut these classes because we don't have enough money, and then when we go to the supervisors to ask for money, he sends a secret letter to City Hall and says, oh, we don't need the money, we don't want the money, this is part of the planned downsizing, or this is part of our plan. And additionally, he said that the Board of Trustees are all on board of that. So it just exposes his lies.
World of cutting classes, diminishing resources, that might negatively affect students. The faculty, right, which is why Michelle, I think, is rightly asking for doing both, right? I agree we should engage the entire college. At this point, though, I don't know, right, what I can persuade him to do. I also have to keep in mind, and I encourage everybody to remember, that we started contracting a PR firm last semester from Burke Davis, and the Chancellor and the administration are running most of their communication tools and events through that PR firm before they agree to do anything, right? So there is a certain level. I'm a pretty persuasive person, but there is a limit to how persuasive I can be in the context of some of these structural issues.
My name's Rick Baum. I was just curious, of the people in this room, how many of you think that Rocha should be fired? Cool.
My name is Anthony Ryan. I used to teach here, but my class got canceled last fall. I teach screen printing, and I spent 4 years building the program and never had a problem with enrollment. And on November 20th, I found out I didn't have a job.
So you're saying there was enough enrollment, but your class has been cut?
Yeah, it had nothing to do with enrollment. It was, they hit the arts pretty heavily because they made clear their values. They don't have San Francisco values. They don't value the arts. So there you are.
What is their agenda?
I think they want to make it a junior college, and they want to abandon the community mission of CCSF, and that's a betrayal of CCSF values and the mission statement of the school.
You think Rocha should go?
Absolutely, I do. I don't think he should have ever been hired.
Rocha has got to go. No, he's got to go.
Connie, staff. I have been a part of the Senate, and I believe strongly in faculty voice to define an institution because we're the intersection of the students and the community. I believe in quality leadership. I do not believe communication has been happening for some time now. I'm not sure if our chancellor understands the frustration that many faculty, and I'm just going to speak for faculty, many faculty feel, and the lack of communication, and I don't believe he views it as lack of communication. Many of us do.
I believe so.
Along with the board, it needs to communicate better as well, I believe. So there are a lot of issues, and the college has been under attack for a long time, especially since ACCJC. It's been a very long trial for students and faculty. And some administrators. We have some excellent administrators here. We have some excellent administrators here, and I have always viewed a good administrator as solid gold.
Well, what about the cutbacks? I mean, the fact that they weren't announced to the faculty. I mean, is that excusable, really?
Well, it's not really excusable. Now, the argument can be made that we didn't know, but then it begs the question of why was that not known? Because that expresses good leadership and good administration when you've planned well and you know this information ahead of time. So either it's an I don't know situation, which is not very excusable. It's actually not excusable, or it's a ploy. So whichever one it is, neither one is actually acceptable.
And has this had a traumatic result? I mean, people are concerned about the future of their jobs, of the future of the college. Do you have those concerns?
I don't have those concerns personally because I'm very near retirement myself within some years. But yes, for part-time faculty, this is a great blow. Now, our schedule did need to be trimmed down to some degree because we did not make those trimmings when the recession hit. So there was some lack of leadership possibly then. However, how it's being done is what is so important. How the budget process is being done. Is it transparent? Is it following the policies of the school? Is it a viable process including the academic senate and faculty expertise?
What do you think about the letter that the chancellor sent to the mayor and the Board of Supervisors saying that this is basically going forward and there's no need, there's no emergency, and we really don't need any money for these cutbacks?
Frankly, I can't comment too much on that, but if I take a step back with only the bare minimum information I have about that, he might have a different explanation for the words he used. However, what comes across to the person in the public or faculty who aren't engaged day to day with these issues is that what on earth are you talking about? We feel like we're going under the water, and you're not representing what we see as happening. In fact, you're representing the opposite. This is not fair game.
Hi, my name is Stephen Brady. I'm the Evans delegate for AFT 2121, and our programs have been decimated.
Where at?
It's Evans campus. It's out near Hunters Point, which is one of the few working class neighbourhoods left in the city. But our programs there have been decimated over the last few years since Mark Rocha took over as chancellor. The old programs we have been cut almost in half. We've got half the allocated hours for teaching that we used to have in auto body, in construction, in all of the kind of trades that we really need, especially here in San Francisco with the housing crisis. So it's just not good enough that we're having these classes cut at the rate they're being cut. Basically, the college is just being ruined, and our students aren't getting a proper chance at classes.
And this is career classes so they can get good paying jobs in San Francisco.
Exactly. We have a housing crunch. We have the most expensive housing in the world. The cost of housing, and one of the reasons that the cost of housing is so expensive, it's very difficult to get good tradespeople. And by cutting these classes, you're making that even more difficult because those people aren't going to be available with the skills needed to do these jobs.
And your students, what have they said? They're trying to get these trades so they can get good jobs. How are they being affected personally?
Well, personally, sometimes if they're in a program and they need to get an associate degree, for example, they have to wait much longer to get the classes they need because they may not be offered in the semester that they need it at. So they might have to wait another 6 months or a year to complete the program that they're in.
And you think Mark Rocha, the chancellor, has done this on purpose?
I think this has to do with a statewide a statewide move to downsize and standardize community colleges and make it much more difficult for students to get the classes that they need, so that they have to take out debt and become more in debt.
Rocha's plan is a bad deal. These cuts won't heal. Rocha's plan is a bad deal. These cuts won't heal. Rocha's plan is a bad deal. These cuts won't heal.
I'm Wynn Kaufman. I'm Vice President of AFT 2121, and we have had enough. Enough of Rocha's lack of transparency, lack of collaboration, and outright lying. What can I say? He tells the board that there's no money and that he has to, with an emergency, cut the spring schedule. When we try to get money from the city, he tells the supervisors, no, this is all part of the plan. So, we've had it.
And why is this happening? I mean, San Francisco has a lot of money, California.
It's true, but there's really a nationwide effort by what is called the education reformers, but I prefer to call them the deformers, which is really trying to narrow the focus of what community colleges are. They don't want us to be the institution that really offers a diverse set of offerings to the communities that need them. Instead, they just want to focus on students that will finish in 2 years and either transfer or get a certificate, go full-time, and so they are basically prey for the student loan industry, and then the students that get pushed out because we're downsizing so much have to go to a private college. So
this is part of privatization in your view?
Part of privatization and neoliberalism, and it's not helping our students.
And a lot of working class students can't afford to go full-time to community college.
Well, exactly, and yet they're being pushed to go full-time, and so they're getting this pressure. They can't do it full-time, and so that makes them prey for the student loan industry. Somebody comes in and says, hey, we can give you this loan, and we know how that goes. The student loan is much bigger than the credit card debt. It's going to be our next big fiscal crisis.
And Chancellor Rocha has said that he's student-focused. He's interested in students first.
Well, of course he says that, because that's what everybody wants to hear. But if you actually look at what the policies are and what they're actually doing, it's not.
And he apparently still has the support of the Board of Trustees here, who have been pretty much rubber stamps for him. How is anything going to change here when you have a Board of Trustees who say that they want to continue to back him?
I don't know how to answer that, because I look aghast at our board and how they just allow him to lie to them continually, and after the exorbitant raises that they tried to sneak in, and then the duplicity and trying to hide it, and then these cuts, I don't know what our board is thinking. I think that if they're going to the voters to ask for bond money, they've got to get leadership that the voters can trust. They've got to get rid of Rocha. We all want that bond money, but we've got to get rid of Rocha, and his team, and his philosophy, his vision. We've got to get somebody in that has the same vision that San Francisco shares.
And Supervisor Mandelman, the union and the students are going to the Board of Supervisors asking for funding to prevent the cuts of 300
right.
classes. Supervisor Mandelman and some other supervisors are saying that they don't want to provide that. Why is that?
They claim fiscal conservativeness. They claim that, well, this is one-time money. It's not really going to help. City College has to deal with its problems and make the hard choices. But what we say is, no, we do know that it's a problem. That City College is not being given the funds from the state that it needs to run the college that San Francisco wants. So the supervisors have to step up. Mandelman needs to step up and really pay attention to what's going on. I think that it's more that he hasn't been paying attention. And he doesn't...
But he's from this college, wasn't he?
He is from this college. I know.
How could he not be paying attention?
I wonder that myself, but we've got to make enough noise to make him pay attention.
And the future of this college as a community college is in jeopardy, in your view. How is it going to end?
Well, I'm not going to give up. I'm still fighting to get the $2.7 million from the city for the bridge funding, which will tide us over until we can get more stability with CHEF, the Community Higher Education Fund. And I fully expect that will happen because I think San Francisco voters know that City College is a beloved institution and they don't want it to change into a junior college that just offers classes for transfer and certificates.
Now, Assemblyman Ting has said that he's in favor of funding of the elderly program, but the other classes, as far as he's concerned, he's no comment.
Who said that?
Ting.
Okay.
Oh, he attacked Chancellor Rocha. Right. And said that Rocha wasn't preparing for the cutbacks.
As I recall in Ting's letter, what he said was that Rocha should have gone after the funding if he wanted to keep the classes going, and that it wasn't a surprise. And I think that's what he was criticizing about Rocha, is that Rocha's acting like, oh, we have to cut these classes because, oh, we see that there's a problem with the budget. But that was not a surprise problem. He saw it coming, and what I read in Ting's letter is that he was kind of chastising Rocha for not having the forethought of going after that money.
Well, has the union asked for Ting and the other Democratic Assembly people, the other legislators, to change the formula to prevent the destruction of community colleges in California, which is something that they passed in the legislature. Apparently Lumina and ALEC have been in favor of that, and they've got legislation really directed by ALEC and Lumina in California legislation right now.
Right. So I do know that the CFT, the statewide California Federation of Teachers, has a task force that's working on that. I have constantly gotten up at public comment during the Board of Trustees meetings and told them that they need to do that, to fight with the faculty union, with the students, to change that funding formula, and also go after the online college. And
the budget of Brown was $150 million for online community college education.
$120 million.
$120 million, with a basically no-bid administrator who was friends with Brown, Willie Brown.
And it was passed through the budget. It was not passed through any kind of collective decision or conversation. And pretty much everybody was against it. And so he snuck it in before he left office.
And the Chancellor Rocha is saying that this is a good thing, online classes. What does that mean, online classes for public education for community colleges?
Well, online education has its place, but the majority, a lot of our students are, it's really not for them. And so, yes, let's offer online classes for the students that it makes sense for, but let's also keep the classes face-to-face that make sense. And he's not doing that. I mean, he's cutting face-to-face classes that are over 20 people enrolled. And he has a vision to downsize the college. I mean, he pretty much said that in his letter to the Board of Supervisors.
And a lot of students haven't been able to graduate because their programs or classes are being cut, that they need to go on and get a future, a career.
That's right. You see these banners all around campus that say graduation guarantees, and these students go into counselors, and sometimes they can get like a swap with a class, but it's not ideal because it's not the certificate that they really wanted. And sometimes they can't. So there are situations where that promise is being broken.
My name is Rick Baum, and I teach part-time at City College. The chancellor's been cutting lots and lots of classes. He claims that he can cut classes and increase enrollment, but we're seeing enrollments going down. This is causing great harm to students. They're losing educational opportunities. Given that most students are students of color, it's a form of reinforcing institutional racism. He also cut older adult classes, and many of the classes are teaching people how to get by in old life. And by cutting classes like this, he's going to be shortening their lives because they won't be learning those particular skills. It's also very detrimental to the faculty who've lost their jobs very suddenly at the last minute. He claims that there's a budget deficit, and that's his justification for the cuts. When we try to get money for the college from the city to restore the classes, he discouraged the city from supporting these things. I mean, what kind of person can be head of a college and be discouraging funding for the college that would result in these classes being cut? I can't understand how the board could allow him to continue working in his job.
And what do you think should happen to him?
Well, it's obvious that the sentiment out here is that people think he's not fit for being at this college. And he and the people who he works with in the top administrative positions should be removed from the college for the good of the college and for the good of San Francisco and the community.
And this is going on at Peralta College. Is there an attack on the community college system in California?
Oh, for sure. I mean, the state has always been underfunding community colleges. They came up with a new funding formula, and the new funding formula is going to make it even harder for colleges, especially in urban areas, to be financially viable. One person told me that he was in touch with an administrator at a college that's completely adhering to the new state formula, and they nevertheless came up with an $8 million shortfall. And then these shortfalls are used to cut more classes because they see that as the solution to the problems at the school. It's depriving, again, community colleges are predominantly schools for the working class, and they're depriving the working class of educational opportunities, is what these formulas are. And this is in a state that last year had a $22 billion surplus, or money in reserves. I mean, they've got the money to properly fund public education, and they aren't doing so.
And Gavin Newsom, the governor, and the legislature passed these changes in funding. Why did they do that? Why did Governor Newsom and the Democratic-controlled legislature, Democrats here in California, the Bay Area, support this?
I think it was more Brown who started it. I'm sure Newsom didn't oppose it. I'm not familiar with his particular position. But why are they doing this? Because it's just part of an agenda where they don't care about social services and educating the population. Please keep in mind that now, at this point, it's 35 years ago, community colleges were free, and UCs and CSUs were much less expensive. Now, we're supposed to be a wealthier society. Why on earth are we always being confronted with cuts, especially at the community colleges? It makes no sense in a state that is as wealthy as California. And one of the questions is, why is not the union organizing statewide to protest this continual assault upon public education, not only at the college level, but in the K-12 schools in the form of charter schools and things like that? They are reforming these things slightly, but they aren't addressing the greater problem of how California grossly underfunds public education compared to most other states in the country.
And should there be a statewide strike action by all education workers and students? It seems like they're threatening the existence of community college.
Well, one would hope that would be something like that would be organized to send a message, because we are seeing comparable protests in other countries that are leading to the demise of governments. They're ousting people, and why isn't that happening here? But then the bigger question is, why isn't this happening here with Trump and what he's been doing? So I don't have the answer. How do you get people motivated and organized? But I think there is a growing sentiment of organizing people in mass ways and mass protests. I think really a great example of that is the young people protesting against the failures of the governments of the world to address the environmental crisis that we're currently facing.